This is your one and only 𝐈𝐸𝐷 with your daily dose of video goodness, and today we are going to cover OP tips for combat in Baldur's Gate 3. Let's get to it. First off, let's talk about dipping your weapon, and no, that's not a euphemism. You should dip your weapon anytime you have the option to dip it into something. And if there's nothing around to dip your weapon into to give it a secondary effect, there are easy ways to create things to do so. First of those is the chromatic orb. You can use the poison chromatic orb because it leaves a surface on the ground and you can dip your weapon into that surface. If there is fire on the ground, you can also dip your weapon into that, or you can carry a candle with you and place that on the ground. You can drop the candle nearby any of your people or all of your people, light it, and you will have an option there for fire to dip your weapon into. The other thing to do is to keep an eye out for things that are around you that are on fire, because there's lots of fire in this game to dip your weapon into as well. You can also carry poison vials and toxin vials to dip your weapon into as well to create effects. You always want to do as much damage as possible when you hit a target, and dipping your weapon increases the damage that you're able to do, and it creates elemental types of damage. So if something is, for example, weak to fire, you're going to increase the total amount of damage you're doing to that target by dipping it into something that is on fire. Now let's cover surfaces. Surfaces are insanely OP in this game. There are a bunch of different types of surfaces. There's acid, there's water, there's fire, there's grease. All of these create on-ground effects that have different interactions. For example, if grease is on the ground, you can hit it with fire to light it on fire. There is even a gunpowder surface that will create an explosion and light things on fire. You can use chromatic orb to create a whole host of different sources, and not only do these sources have different interactions with different elements, they also have interactions on their own just standing on them. For example, grease can cause you to slip, fall, and go prone. Ice can do the same thing, and if you're standing in water and that is shot with something that causes electricity, for example lightning bolt or chromatic orb lightning or a lightning arrow, it will create an electrified area which causes units to take damage when they step inside of it. A lot of these surfaces can be removed with water, so it's a good idea to either have somebody that can create water or just carry a bunch of water crafts with you. You will find these water vessels all over the place, so it's a good idea to keep an eye out for them and carry a couple on you at all times. And that leads me into my next tip, which is to command the battlefield by making sure you're in the right placement. There are lots of areas on the map that are cutoff points or choke points. There are some ladders that are destructible, so if you climb up them, you get your party at the top of them. You can then destroy the ladder, and if nothing is able to jump up there, it's all trapped below you. You can also use all the different surfaces we just talked about in order to command the battlefield as well by placing them in these choke points. You can also combine these surfaces to hold these choke points even more by using concentration spells, stuff like Cloud of Daggers and any other AoE effects that come with different spells. These tactics can be invaluable for weakening melee enemies that run up on you. And these choke points really come into play with my next tip, which is to make sure you always have the high ground. Whoever has the high ground in this game always has the advantage, and I'm sure you've heard plenty of other people tell you this as well. So getting the high ground can often result in leaving choke points between you and the targets that are trying to attack you. Things like ladders, vines, or there can be specific places that are the only place in which the target can jump up to get to you. And the crazy thing about this game is having the slightest incline can be considered having the high ground. So if you are on stairs and you are fighting on stairs, you just want to be at the highest part of the stairs and you will be considered having the high ground. The next tip is to make use of barrels. Barrels are all over in this game. You can find different kinds of barrels, everything from water to wine to explosive barrels full of black powder, and these are insanely handy for not only controlling the battlefield but setting up traps when you know you are going to get into a fight. On top of that, you can use barrels to do things like block access to ladders, preventing the AI from getting to you. And one of of the most craziest OP things you can do is have a bunch of archers on the high ground and have a melee person down below all of them in the fray of battle, placing barrels all over the place and then getting out of the way while one of your archers blows up the barrels. How can you do this, you ask? With one of the most insanely OP spells in the game, and that is the next tip, and that is the Sanctuary spell. Sanctuary is insane. You have no idea how strong this spell is until you start to use it. This spell makes a target untargetable until it harms another creature. This means you can place barrels on the ground because barrels do not harm a creature. You can also heal your allies. You can do anything and everything you want to do, and you cannot be targeted by any of the AI as long as this spell is on you and you do not bring harm to any other creature. That means you can do things like place this on your warrior, have your warrior on the low ground in the middle of the fray, placing barrels in groups of enemies, then walking away while your archers shoot the barrel and then blow up the enemy. Then you can also have your cleric or whoever your healer is have this spell on them, and they will not be attacked, and they can just stand back and heal your party, and your party will never wipe because your healer can't be attacked. Another fun thing you can do with this spell is cast Sanctuary on your healer, then have your healer stay next to your fighter or barbarian while they are in the thick of things laying waste to everybody. When they die, your healer can just heal them, they get back up and continue fighting, and then they die again, your healer just picks them up, they continue fighting, and then you rinse and repeat. If they get downed and they get downed again because of the rotation that's going on and they are unable to get their footing back and fight again, all you have to do is cast Sanctuary on your fighter, wait a turn, and then they are able to lay waste to the enemy once more. It is also really good for moving through large groups of enemies when you are trying to reposition someone. And that's not all. Sanctuary is also a bonus action, so your healer can heal somebody with any spell that is not a bonus action and then proceed to cast Sanctuary on whatever target they need to cast it on. You want to 100% make sure that someone in your party is able to cast this spell. The next tip is Command. The Command spell is super strong. You can completely disarm an enemy with this spell. If you have a melee fighter that is all up on one of your other fighters, you can command them to drop their weapon, then just run over and pick up their weapon. You can also command them to flee, which is another very handy one, but the handiest thing that I have found to do with the command option is to just have a target drop its weapon. Some of these enemies, especially bosses, have insanely strong weapons, and if you can manage to pull this off, you absolutely cripple that unit. Even if you do not manage to get to them and pick up the weapon after they drop it, it shuts them down for an entire turn because if they want to use the weapon, they have to pick it up, and picking it up is an action. If you are using a bow and it is outside the weapon's range, I highly advise using one of the special arrows like a fire arrow or a frost arrow because that will create an AoE effect, and that AoE effect has a chance to hit the target on top of your chance to also hit the target. You can shoot from a distance, completely miss the target, and the AoE effect will hit the target. Look for things in and around the battlefield that you can affect that will affect your enemies. For example, in this clip, I shoot one of the hanging braziers and knock it down on top of the enemy. There are little things all over the place like this that you can affect on the map that can give you an advantage in battle. And the last tip I have for you is when it is your turn and your characters are grouped together, so they are taking one turn after another, they are not actually taking one turn after another. They are grouped up as a whole, and that is a single turn. You can click their portraits and control any of them at any given point of time out of order during that turn. This can be super handy for getting people in the right positions to set up combo abilities. This is also denoted up at the top by their borders being entwined. When you see them like this, that means you can play them in any order that you want and swap back and forth between them until none of them have anything left to do. Alright, that's all I have for you for this one. Hopefully you found this video helpful and informational. If you did, consider hitting the subscribe button and notification bell so you can be notified when I upload other videos. And if you're looking for some more Baldur's Gate 3 content, you can find a link to another one of my videos on the screen right now. I want to give an absolute massive shout out and thank you to all of my channel supporters for helping to keep these videos sponsor free. You all are absolutely amazing people. If you would like to become an official channel supporter, check out the links in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. If you're shy, you don't like to comment, just hit that thumbs up button and share your support. Until next time, thanks for watching.